We continue the chapter reading of Alfred Goldberg's book, Pentagon 9/11, from the Defense Historical Office, Chapter 6, Open for Business, on September 12th. It's not a very long video, it's only 3 pages of it. So let's see. Some of the thousands of military personnel. Yeah, I'm just going to load up just one more time so you can see it yourself. All right. And it says, some of the thousands of military personnel, civil servants, and constructors who returned to the Pentagon on September 12th, determined to keep the building in operation, arrived well before sunrise to avoid traffic jams and find parking. At some points in the E-ring, embers had flared up during the night, and fire persistently consumed the dry wood under areas of the slate roof. Now, remember, this was the last part of the Pentagon renovation project headed by Lee Evey, and wedge one was the last of the wedges to be renovated. That's why they had their rooftop was made of horsehair as insulation. So it basically caught fire. It's easy to catch fire. Horsehair burns up immediately, and fire spread throughout because there was still downed electrical lines, and jet fuel was located all over the first floor. Fires rose up. Fires were inside the roof line, and people from Arlington and Fort Myer Fire Department had to poke holes in the roof. If you ever see them on top of the roof of the Pentagon, September 11th and 12th, that's what they were doing, so the smoke can get out and not spread throughout the renovated parts of the Pentagon. Anthony Conquest recalled, I came in the next morning about 5 a.m., and the worst part for me was looking out over the courtyard at the bandages, bags, and debris, and in the dark, the building was still on fire. In the dark, it was eerie. The orange flames and smoke, the shining lights from the firefighting efforts. It was surreal and upsetting. Most poignant for workers was knowing that the building entombed colleagues and friends. As the chief of the REANF Office of Space Policy and Acquisition, Conquest had to find office space in the National Capital Region for displaced workers. With the help of the General Service Administration, the GSA, he found quarters in 3 buildings in Crystal City and Arlington, 2 subway stops from the Pentagon. The REANF staff and GSA acquired desks, chairs, computers, and telephones and arranged for cabling, and electrical power for 3,000 people, down from the original estimate of 5,000 people displaced by fire, smoke, and water. Many people found space with colleagues either within the Pentagon or elsewhere in the area. Through Cook, Conquest coordinated with the Military Department Administrative Assistants of J.B. Hudson from the Army, John Laria of the Navy, and William Davidson of the Air Force. Douglas Benton of the GSA cut through red tape for them. Within 5 days, all displaced employees were at alternate work stations. 2 stubborn problems on September 12th could have forced Donald Rumsfeld from the building after all. Had the roof fire continued to spread, it would have destroyed an antenna cluster located atop the building. Destruction of the antennas would have seriously degraded the NMCC's communications capability, forcing a relocation of the center and Department of Defense leaders. Firefighters battling the blaze beneath slate roof areas through the 12th succeeded in keeping the flames from the communication gear. Likewise, water pouring from fire hoses into the building threatened to short circuit the Pentagon's main telephone switching room. Quick action by building maintenance workers using pumps and sandbags saved the critical equipment. For many days after the attack, managers and employees faced scores of urgent, unusual problems exhibiting impressive skill and, in some instances, courage under hazardous conditions. On the 12th, electrician Robert McLeod led a team to assess the condition of the building's high-voltage electrical distribution system. Using a flashlight in the smoky wet electrical vaults, he began the process of restoring power to parts of the building. Later, in full firefighting gear, the team entered the collapse impact zone area where they sought the source of a live connection and disconnected a battery still trying to power a computer server backup system. Cooney, with a team of employees and contractors on the lawn immediately in front of the crash site, used a generator, air compressor, and pump to remove thousands of gallons of water from a utility vault damaged by the attacking aircraft. All the water, of course, were from the firefighters' hoses and the bursted water main lines that service underneath the Pentagon. They hastened to pump the water out so it would not touch steam pipes in the vault. The REANF contracting office quickly arranged for contractors to tear off damaged roof slate, cover the openings with tarpaulins and wood to protect the floors beneath the rain in the event of rain. No matter how waterproof they made the roof, however, heat from warm days that followed affected wet, dark, sealed areas of otherwise undamaged sections of the building and unleashed a wild growth of mold that would require removal of walls and ceilings and extensive environmental tests in the ensuing weeks. There's so many different smaller variables than just the Pentagon being on fire and damaged. And they had to, wade through dangerous chemicals of jet fuel and gasoline and oil and whatnot, electrical down power lines, mold. There was a lot here. And of course, the decaying bodies of the remains of those who died on September 11th on the first floor. Maintenance crews worked around the clock for weeks after September 11th. Robert Cox, chief of the technical staff of the Federal Facilities Division, spoke for many of the civil servants and contractors. Everyone I know and talked to who was involved in this intensive effort unanimously felt privileged to be a part of it. There were so many people who, like me, got many phone calls from family and friends worried about our safety. This was overwhelming. It was an amazing feeling of satisfaction that went with the whole effort. Closing valves, pulling switches, testing the air, pumping water, setting up generators, and hundreds of other jobs helped to reestablish the physical environment in the Pentagon that the department needed to carry out its responsibilities. Office workers responded with as much toughness and resilience as the building itself, returning to their jobs the next day while files still burned and rescue from recovery efforts continued. The terrorists, rather than accidental or natural occurrences, caused the Pentagon's damage, made it crucially important to maintain continuity of operations. The Department of Defense had to act immediately to safeguard the nation against other possible strikers and prepare for military action against those who facilitated and perpetrated the attacks. The department's resourcefulness in carrying on effectively under extreme conditions reflected the steadfast decision of its leaders and rank and file, military and civilian. And that's the all for this chapter. It'll be chapter 7, securing the Pentagon. And, we're near the end of the book. And look, Alfred Goldberg wrote the perfect book about what happened at the Pentagon and the work that went into repairing the Pentagon after the attacks and all the people that were involved in working on this building. And I absolutely recommend this book. We got 3 chapters to go. Actually, we got 2 chapters to go and 9 more videos before the end of the book. And thank you for tuning in and taking an interest of this important period of our lives that changed the world forever. Now, look, to some of you who are actually questioning the narrative of 9/11 by the federal government and the intelligence services, I'm with you. But you can't say that all of it is false, right? Because there was a lot of information. And I've said this ad nauseum. I feel like I'm repeating myself. But to those who are new and just watching these videos, I'm an investigator, reporter, and podcaster who tries to send just verifiable information. And the reason why I do this is because I want an educated audience. I mean, it does no good. If we're going to try and solve 9/11, it does no good for me to misinform you and then profit from it. I don't make a dime on these videos, and I don't ask for money. It is my proud duty to inform you, the audience, because I want an educated audience, because with information comes power. Don't you think that was the case with the intelligence services pre 9/11? I'm not going to say the CIA and the NSA definitely had specific details about who, what, where, and why, but I am alluding to the fact that maybe, just maybe, a few within the highest elements of the intelligence services. And I do insinuate that Saudi Arabia and Israel might have had those specifics, but we don't know. You can't just blame Israel because they're the main enemy right now because they're killing all the Palestinians out of Gaza. Yeah, the government is guilty. But just remember that tens of thousands of Israelis are protesting against the Netanyahu government right now in Israel, in Tel Aviv. So you got to be careful and temper expectations about who you want to blame for the 9/11 attacks. What you feel and how you and what worldview you employ inside your head, you better eliminate that when you watch videos of mine because I only require you to basically disseminate fact from fiction in a responsible manner without a worldview being present. Because with worldviews comes bias. I mean, if you're a heavy duty, Catholic, or you're a Muslim, or if you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're only going to look at information that agrees with that worldview because that worldview becomes you. And that's where you make the mistake because you're much more valuable, much more eternal. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in, heaven and hell, but there might be, a higher power up there. I'm tending to more believe that than anything else. But, I'm not monotheistic in any sense, but, you know, what I'm trying to say is that worldviews tend to define you when they shouldn't. And if they do that, you're only going to look at information that agrees with that worldview. And that's the reason why so many people within the 9/11 truth movement, just look at specific information, don't look at the whole picture. And I think, one of the reasons why I made this, channels like this on YouTube and elsewhere is so that I could properly inform the audience. And that's my reward. All right, guys, I won't bore you anymore. Listen, thank you very much for tuning in. And look, see you in the next video. Take care.